Level 1. The call. The smell hits you before you even open the door. You are standing in a hallway, in a building you have never been to, holding a phone number on a piece of paper, wearing clothes you will throw away before the end of the day. You don't know that yet. You will learn. The company is called something neutral, something that gives nothing away. Restoration services, trauma remediation. The kind of name that tells you exactly what it is if you already know, and tells you nothing if you don't. You answered a job listing because you needed work, and the pay was listed at nearly 3 times what the warehouse down the street was offering. The interview was short. The man who hired you looked at you for a long moment before he said anything. He was trying to determine whether you were the kind of person who could do this. You told him you could. You didn't know what you were agreeing to. You are about to find out. The apartment on the other side of this door has been a crime scene for 4 days. The police have finished with it. The family has been contacted. No one from the family is coming to handle this. That is why you are here. You put on the Tyvek suit. You put on the respirator. You put on the gloves that go up to your elbows. Your supervisor hands you a spray bottle and a bucket and a set of instructions. He does not explain anything that isn't strictly necessary. That is not cruelty. That is experience. Some things you have to see yourself. Explaining them does not prepare you. He opens the door. You go in. Whatever you expected, this is not it. Level 2. The learning. You do not quit after the first job. That surprises you. You drive home and you sit in your car in your driveway for 20 minutes, and you don't go inside. You don't want to bring whatever is on you into the house, even though you showered at the site. Even though the clothes are in a sealed bag in the trunk, the feeling doesn't come off with soap. But you go back the next day, and the day after that. There is more variety to this work than the outside world understands. Some scenes are medical. An elderly person who died alone and wasn't found for a week. A hospice situation that the family couldn't bring themselves to handle. An overdose in a motel room that the management needs cleared before noon. Some scenes are violent. You learn to categorize quickly. You learn what requires what. You learn the difference between a job that takes 2 hours and a job that takes 8. You learn to read a room the moment you walk into it. Not the way a detective reads it. The detective is looking for what happened. You are looking for what it will take to make it look like it didn't. There is a vocabulary to this work. Biohazard, PPE, pathogen exposure, ATP testing. You learn it the way you learn the vocabulary of any trade, methodically, without sentiment. You learn that sentiment is something you have to put somewhere else during the job, not eliminate somewhere else. You figure out your own system for this. Everyone does. The people who don't figure out a system don't last. Your supervisor has been doing this for 9 years. He moves through a scene the way a surgeon moves through a procedure, efficiently, without hesitation, without apparent emotional engagement. You watch him, and you learn from watching him. He tells you one thing in your second week that stays with you. He says, the person who was here is not here anymore. Your job is to help the people who are still here. You think about that on every job after. Level 3. The wait. By month 4, you have been inside over 40 scenes. You have learned things about human beings that most people will never know, not just about death, though you have learned a great deal about death, about the way people live when they think no one is watching. The things they keep, the things they leave out, the photographs on a wall, and the space where a photograph used to be. You do not talk about specific jobs. That is the first rule, and the one that matters most. Not because of legal liability, though that is real. Because the people connected to these scenes deserve the protection of silence. You carry what you see, you don't distribute it. You have started having a specific kind of dream. You are not in the dream, you are the room. You are observing from the walls. You wake up and you lie still for a moment, and you locate yourself in the present. This is your bed, this is your ceiling. You are here. That process takes longer some mornings than others. The money is real. You are making more than you have ever made. Hazard pay is not a metaphor in this industry. It is a precise reflection of what the work costs, not just physically. The suits and the respirators handle the physical. The cost the pay is compensating for is harder to name. You name it anyway, because naming things is how you manage them. It is the cost of being the person who enters rooms that everyone else needs to not enter. Someone has to. You are someone. Level 4. The one that changes your calibration. You arrive at a house in a neighborhood with good lawns. The kind of neighborhood where this doesn't happen, except it does. The scene is a child's room. You stand outside the door for longer than you have stood outside any door since your first job. You go in. You do the job. You do not talk about what was in that room, not to your supervisor, not to your partner, not here. That belongs to a family, and to the silence this work requires. What you can say is this. You sit in your car afterward, and you feel something shift, not break, shift, like a load redistributing inside you. Something that was in one place moves to another. You are not sure the new location is stable. You won't be sure for a while. You call your sister that evening. She asks how work was. You say fine. She talks about something ordinary. You listen to every word. Ordinary things sound different to you now. They always will. Level 5. The reputation. You have been doing this for 2 years. You are the person your supervisor sends on the difficult ones now. Not because he doesn't want them, because you have demonstrated something specific. You don't deteriorate in the room. You stay methodical. You stay present. You do what the job requires without bringing yourself into it in a way that compromises the work. Other cleaners know your name. The industry is small, smaller than you expected. There are not that many people willing to do this, which means the people who are willing know each other, at least by reputation. A restoration company 3 cities over has called about a contracting arrangement. There is work they receive that their own people won't take. They want someone they can call. You take the arrangement. The jobs are harder. They pay more. The math is consistent throughout this entire industry. You have also become, without planning to, a person that families call directly. Word moves through grief counselors, through funeral homes, through the quiet networks of people whose professional lives involve helping people through the worst moments of their lives. Someone tells someone who tells someone that you are the person to call when they don't know who to call. You take those calls in a different way than you take the commercial jobs. You speak carefully. You explain what you will and won't be able to tell them about the process. You tell them the truth, which is that when you are done, the space will be clean. You cannot promise anything about how they will feel about the space. That part is not yours to manage. They thank you in ways that are uncomfortable. You accept it with as much grace as you can because they need to give it. Level 6. What you carry. You are 34 years old. You have been inside more than 200 scenes. There is a specific thing that happens to people in this work that no training covers and no supervisor explains, because it is different for everyone and also somehow the same. You become very calm. Not numb. Calm is different from numb. Numb is an absence. This is a presence, a steadiness that you notice when you compare yourself to who you were before. Chaos that would have unraveled you 5 years ago now feels navigable. You have sat inside rooms that contain the final consequences of human chaos. Your personal threshold for manageable has relocated permanently. This is useful in some contexts. In other contexts, it is isolating. The people you knew before don't fully understand what has happened to you. You don't hold that against them. Why would they understand? You would not have understood before. You sleep, you eat, you maintain a life outside the work. But there is a version of you that is always partially elsewhere. Partially in the inventory of rooms. Partially sitting with the weight of what you have witnessed and chosen to keep in silence. You have never once regretted taking this job. You have never once wished You didn't know what you now know. But knowing what you know has changed the shape of everything. Level 7. The room you can't leave. There is one scene you return to. Not physically, in the way that certain things return, in the quiet hours, in the transition between sleep and waking, in the moment before a door opens on a new job. You do not describe it to anyone. You have decided, deliberately, that describing it would reduce it in a way that would be wrong. It deserves the fullness of what it was. What you can say is this: that scene contained something that made you understand, completely and without any remaining ambiguity, why this work matters. Why the fact that someone shows up to these rooms, does the work carefully and with dignity, and leaves the space restored, is not a service transaction. It is something closer to an act. You are not religious. You have not become religious through this work. But you have developed something that functions like reverence for the specific gravity of certain moments, for the weight of what ordinary rooms sometimes hold. Every cleaner has this room, the one that crystallized everything. Yours lives in you. You carry it. You go to work tomorrow. You put on the suit. You pick up the equipment. You drive to an address you have never been to, and you walk into a life you are entering at its most fractured moment. You do what needs to be done. You leave the space clean. Somewhere, a person who has been waiting to walk back into that room will walk back into it. You will never meet them. You will never know what it meant to them to have the room back. You don't need to know. That is the correct answer.